Here's how they line up with the Mustang on pole position. The Thorpe and Quaife car just ahead of the Mustang of John Davidson. Steve Soper and Henry Mann, who is driving two cars in this race, in the Ford Mustang ahead of the Lotus Cortina, the first of the twin-cam powered cars. It will be outpowered by the big Ford V8s in the Mustangs, the Falcons and the Galaxy, but nimble handling and some bravery could keep them in the fray. They're only a second off the pace in qualifying. Four-time World Touring Car, three-time World Touring Car champion Andy Prio in a Mustang. He will start in 7th place. And Phil Keane added to Sean McInerney's Ford Mustang to bring some more driving talent to that lineup. Further back, lots more Lotus Cortinas. They'll be battling in the up to 1600 category and for supremacy against the big Ford engine cars. And then a whole gaggle of Mini Coopers, mostly Austins. There is a Morris Mini Cooper S in there as well, and they will all be battling for their own honours in the up to 1300cc class. So it is a massive grid. We haven't got to the end of it as we get to the 30th place car. There are 50 cars heading out to end this fantastic 2022 Classic at Silverstone on a real bang. We have had lots of great racing, lots of last lap sort-outs throughout the weekend, and we expect to see at least a lot of great racing in this, and maybe a kind of grandstand finale where everything gets sorted out in a very final lap. Well, take a look at this. Lots of well-known machinery, Mark 1, Lotus Cortinas and Mini Cooper S's. Everybody in the audience will know them. The Ford Mustangs are pretty easy to recognise as well. And then the bigger shapes, the Ford Falcon and the longest in the field, the Ford Galaxy. There's one Alfa Romeo in there as well. So that is also competing with the twin-cam Lotus Cortinas in the up to 1600 class, or 1300 to 1600 class. And then above 1600, it is all comers in the big category. One BMW 1800 in the up to 2 litre category, so he's going to have a bit of a race with the Cortinas and the Minis. Won't be worrying too much about class honours. And as this huge field of 50 cars streams round, most are 2-driver entries. There are a number who are single drivers, rather greedily hogging the entire 50-minute race to themselves. But then, if I had a Mustang or a Cortina, I might well be doing the same. Of course, I might be doing what some of the other owners do, which is get somebody in who really knows how to drive them, but that's entirely the owner's choice. One man on the grid as well has been responsible for helping to build his own car, so kudos to Alex Brundle, who has with Pearson Engineering been building his own Mustang, and his first time racing here this weekend in a car that he has bloodied his own knuckles on. There can't be too many drivers. Steve Soper would be the other that immediately springs to mind who have done that. So lights out on the safety car. We are getting ready to go racing. The final encounter at the Classic at Silverstone. 45 minutes of tin top mayhem. Like the blue touch paper, stand well back. The Transatlantic Challenge for pre-66 touring cars for the Adrian Flux Trophy gets underway here at Silverstone. It was our pole-sitting Mustang that paced the field, thundering Ford V8s very much to the fore, being chased by the wailing twin-cam Cortinas and the howling Minis. The sound of mighty muscle, though, leads the field around the Silverstone Grand Prix circus as we get our 45-minute race underway.
And it's James Thorpe who's taken the early lead in the dark blue with the white striped Mustang. There are 2 Mustangs, 3 Mustangs and a Falcon behind him, and then another couple of Mustangs, 2 of them in very similar colours, the Alan Mann colours, red and gold roof. but the rest of the field streaming through. What a sight that is. They've got to deal with this little bit of treatment that's been put down on the oil. That's blowing up a lot of dust, but it looks like the James Thorpe car that leads, the number 66. Then it's the light blue car of Steve Soper, who's sharing with Henry Mann in the number 7 Mustang, the light blue coloured car. Steve Soper, of course, well known to touring car fans, known as Soper Man, and he's sharing with Henry Mann, so that's how he appears on our grid sheet, Soper Man. And in third place, the red and gold Mustang, the first of the two of them, that's 163 John Davison, who was on the front row, but not such a great start for John Davison. Then it's the yellow car. Now look out for that 99 yellow car, currently in fourth place, battling through Copse Corner. That is World Touring Car champion Andy Priaulx in that car first. He's the start driver in that one, so absolutely getting the hammer down in the yellow Mustang from row 4, Andy Priaulx, and he's got ahead of the second of the red and gold Mustangs, which is Craig Davis, the number 9 car, his regular mount for these historic touring car races. And a change of lead then, so it's now the light blue car of Steve Soper that leads, as we look at, sadly,
Chris
one of our
Morgan.
minis.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Chris Morgan failing to proceed. Andy Priaulx went the long way round the outside at Copse Corner and had third place into Maggots and Beckett's, but he's got to do a bit of chasing here. Big lock up from Steve Soper. Or is it Henry Mann in that car? Must be Henry Mann starting that car, otherwise you wouldn't be able to swap into the other car. Or is it Steve Soper swap that one and Henry Mann's in the other one? Either way, big lock up.
It's Steve
Soper,
yes.
the red and grey helmet. So Soper with an uncharacteristic error. Now I wonder whether that is him on colder tyres with a bit of oil on the car's tyres maybe, or whether they've got a little bit of an issue. But Soper has the lead from James Thorpe just. And Andy Priaulx will look to try and close the gap, and the battle in front, Alistair, is really going to help Priaulx. Priaulx's not being attacked from behind at the moment, although he has got very close company from the Thomas and Lockheed car, but he needs to try and close on these guys while he has the opportunity, and down the inside comes the Falcon.
Julian Thomas, yes, as always, starts his cars, and he'll hand over to Callum Lockheed, and Julian Thomas manages to slide down the inside of the rather more experienced in terms of touring car racing, Andy Priaulx, also of course the factory Ford GT driver in long distance racing. So Andy Priaulx, huge amount of experience, but what a battle we've got at the lead. Two of the Mustangs coming down into Brooklands, and it's still Steve Soper. Just a brief lock-up of the unloaded front left wheel there as he turned in to the left-hander. He goes out wide again. Steve's not happy with that car, is he? He's running wide at a number of the corners, and that's allowed James Thorpe to go back through into the lead, but Steve Soper will try and come through on the inside. No, he's not close enough. He falls in behind James Thorpe as they go along through past the Woodcote corner onto the old pit straight, and Julian Thomas looking very threatening now in third place. He's managed to work his way through from 6th on the grid to 3rd in the race in the Falcon. So it's Fords at the front, but it's Mustangs followed by Falcon, 4 Mustangs behind the Falcon as well. So you have to say the Mustangs to the fore at the moment. Into the Beckett's S's, and still James Thorpe leading.
10 thundering Ford V8s at the front of the field. Then come the first of the Lotus Cortinas in 11th place, leading that class, car number 170, the Duel and Klukas car. And if you're trackside, pick a favourite colour, pick a favourite car, because actually that's as good a way as following the racing. It doesn't have to be at the front, it can be anywhere you like. There are some great looking liveries and some cracking battles that you can see in the background there. The Lotus Cortinas, they've got one Falcon in amongst them and a couple of minis snapping at their heels, but at the front of the field it is all about Ford muscle. The big V8s, the same engine in the Mustangs as in the Falcon, as in the Galaxy, so they're all thundering away at the front of the field, these 4.7 litre Ford engines, and it is the car of our pole sitter Thorpe and Quaife, who are just starting to creep away. Here comes the Falcon sprint of Julian Thomas on the inside of Steve Soper's Mustang, just avoiding contact. But that means that Soper is now falling back into the clutches of that big black car of Julian Thomas. The red Alan Mann car has come squirreling through as well, ahead of the yellow and black car of Andy Priaulx. Priaulx over the curbs there, and there are 4 of them looking for the same bit of tarmac.
Unbelievable. You wouldn't think you could get 4 big American cars side by side through the loop, but they did it. And Steve Soper really hanging the tail out there, trying to stay ahead of this snarling pack behind him. So we've got Craig Davis in the red and gold car in the middle. We've got Julian Thomas in the black car with the white arrow on the front. And we've got Andy Prio in the yellow car with the black stripes. And then the second of the red and gold cars is just behind, and that's John Davison, who was on the front row, but he's now at the back of this little group. But this battling, and you have to say, it looks like Steve Soper's a bit of a cork in a bottle here, because Julian Thomas is not able to get by, and it's allowing James Thorpe to pull away into the distance a little bit as they go into Copse Corner. And second place, there goes Steve Soper, then it's Julian Thomas, then it's Craig Davis and Andy Prio next up, and then we see the next red and gold car coming through of John Davison. And John Davison is being chased by Mike Whittaker Jr. in number 49.
Julian Thomas goes through in the Falcon into second place on the run from Copse to Maggots. And Steve Soper, we saw that great shot as looking back down the straight as they came out of Luffield. Soper's car on a big handful of opposite lock, everything else drifting out 4 square. Now, have they got a problem with the tyre pressures in the car or something? I'm not sure how much driving this car has done, but Soper does not look happy. It is a lot more tail happy than the Mustangs around it. And Julian Thomas has got by in that big black Falcon. Oh, and contact from Soper. The one thing you know about Steve Soper is he never gives up. So he will fight this car and all other comers, but it does look like more of a handful. The red Alaman car behind, the red and gold number 9 of Craig Davis, and the black and yellow car of Andy Prio do look a little bit more planted, the 99 car. Having said that, you can see the second red and gold car moving around. Prio jockeying for position as well, looking for way past car number 9, doesn't get through. These early 65 and 66 Mustangs with their short rear window, the notchback coupe rather than the longer cars that came later. Carroll Shelby developing the GT350 for racing with a sort of longer, more aerodynamic tail. But these were the original racing Mustangs, and you can see why they were so popular, not just with the drivers but with the fans. Again, multicoloured racing, same car, same engine, but all trying a different way of skinning the cat there in the loop.
And there really is no substitute for more power than traction, is there? This is brilliant racing, but from some really experienced drivers. They're all giving each other a bit of racing room. Steve Soper's little nudge on the back of Julian Thomas was completely unintended. He just couldn't get the car to turn in, and he backed out of it as soon as he knew he was running a little bit wide. And now he's holding up Craig Davis a little bit, and Julian Thomas is starting to pull away in the lead.
And look at the back of that massive clump of Mustangs. You can see the next Ford Falcon, the white Falcon on the back of the queue there. You can see the white Mustang also looking to make up a place and squeezes through car number 49. So that's Mike Whittaker Jr. moving up the order in his white and black Mustang, and then moving back down the order.
As he spins.
Up a ladder and down a snake in rapid succession with the same throw of the dice.
That's one to Martin Haven.
Yeah. That was
to
me.
Add to the list. I haven't had too many today. I got them all yesterday.
You certainly were batting a very high average yesterday. And then through come all the minis, mingling with the Lotus Cortinas as well. Oh, so the second of the Alan Mann Mustangs also had a spin there, did it? No, there's 2 there. So there's 3 of the red and gold cars.
Another
one just went through shot,
I think that might be Henry Mann's car, number 6, who was further back on the grid. So Henry Mann also running it in his late father's team colours, which Henry now runs that company, preparing a lot of these cars. I would imagine they're experts in preparing Mustangs and Falcons and so on. As we get back to the battle for third place, Steve Soper just ahead of Craig Davis, and there are the 2 leaders ahead of them, and that's Julian Thomas front of shot, then it's Steve Soper, it's Craig Davis and Andy Prio in the yellow car with the black stripes. Let's have a look at some of the smaller engine cars. These are the Lotus Cortinas. So the Mark I Lotus Cortina was developed by Colin Chapman for Ford with the Lotus twin cam engine. Very, very effective racing car, and probably one of the most famous pictures you'll ever see is Jim Clark three-wheeling one of these cars through Copse Corner with the photographers standing right next to the track on the inside. And still the Cortinas are giving us great entertainment here at Silverstone Circuit, and it's the number 170 car that's a little bit late on the brakes, and one of the cheeky minis nips through.
Two of the cheeky minis nip through because they have to brake later and stop later because there's less of them. And in fact, basically, even there in the loop, you barely lift. It's a quick snick down into third and then foot flat on the gas, grabbing for fourth as you come onto the straight, and then waiting for the Lotus Twinks to come steaming past you in the straight line. 1300cc in the Mini and 1600cc in the Lotus Cortinas, and there you go, that's the difference. But the Minis maintain a much higher corner speed. Now, I've struck twice already in this race. I was just saying about Alex Brundle being one of the only drivers on the grid to have helped prepare his own car. He did so with Gary Pearson. That car has already been in the pits, and trouble for the number 4 car of Oliver and Sam Attard. The 1964 Mark I Lotus Cortina being pushed away by the marshals. 92, the Shepherds. Bill Shepherd, the ace Mustang racer and preparer. Now, did he start the car? Not sure whether it was Bill or Freddie Shepherd who started that 7-litre Ford Galaxy. So it's an older car, 1965 car, but with even more power than anything else in the race. But look at the size of it. A Lotus Cortina is basically below the driver's eye line when you're in the Galaxy. That's ridiculous.
And it's Bill Shepherd, Martin, who started that, yes.
And here's the Mini, just sneaks around the outside. I mean, it is basically like racing an aircraft carrier. Yes. It takes a lot of slowing down. And just in front, going out to shot, the bright blue car, that unique in this field, is another version basically of the Ford Falcon, but with the Mercury badge on the front, the Mercury Comet Cyclone. So that's that bright turquoise number 69 car of race winner today, Roger Wills.
And still this battle goes on midfield, and the darker coloured Mini, the number 55 car, the dark blue with the white roof, that's Jeff Smith, who you may remember raced in the British Touring Car Championship for many years. Number 55, Jeff Smith. And he looks to be second of the Minis, the leading Mini being Aaron Smith, car number 21, the maroon coloured car just ahead of him. And they're mixed in as ever with the Lotus Cortinas, and then Bill Shepherd in that vast Ford Galaxy.
And that's the way it was in the early 60s. You'd have had Gawain Bailey and the likes in the Cortinas. You'd have had guys like Matt Neal's dad, Steve Neal, racing in the Minis. And then you had the likes of Jack Sears in the big Ford Galaxies. And it sort of depended on the circuit, on the weather, on the driving talent available, who came out on top. But they were always battling a very different way of going racing from each of the 3 cars. Small engine front-wheel drive, medium-size engine rear-wheel drive with Formula One team breathing on it, and a vast, over-powerful car. Now, a problem for one of our Mustangs. Who is that?
That's Colin Sauter in his orange Mustang with the black stripes. Looked like he had a spin into the gravel and managed to dig himself out. So a little bit of time lost, but no harm done. As we go back to the battle for 12th place, which is remarkably in 12th place overall, is a Mini versus a Cortina, and then 14th and 15th, another Mini and Cortina battle, and it's Aaron Smith who is the leading Mini, but he's just been passed on power by, I think that's Justin Law, isn't it, number 70? Yes, it is. Justin Law in there as well in his Mini. Justin Law most famously connected perhaps with the Goodwood Festival of Speed, isn't he, Martin? Because he's driven some wonderful cars up there, including the super van as well. No, I'm wrong, it's not Justin Law, it's 711, my apologies, it's Peter Smith. Actually, that's Guy Smith. So there's our 2003 Le Mans 24-hour winner, Guy Smith, driving his dad's, Peter Smith's Mark I Lotus Cortina, battling with Aaron Smith, unrelated Aaron Smith, in the Mini.
Yeah, lots of Smiths there, because there are 3 Smiths in those first 4 cars in the shot. You've got Guy Smith clearing off in the white Mini, you've got Aaron Smith, and then Jeff Smith in the second of the Minis in that battle. Oh, and a big drift out wide from the pale, that's a great colour, that pale turquoise Cortina. Guy Smith into the pit lane.
I think that's the Irishman, is it Paddy Shovlin?
Yeah,
yes, it is.
May well be.
Yeah, in the pale Cortina, Paddy Shovlin.
Now, Guy Smith diving into the pit lane. It's too early for pit. Oh, it's not too early for pit stop. So, was that Guy Smith who started, or was that his dad who started, who's come in right at the beginning of the pit window? Either Guy's had enough and wants Peter to do the donkey work, or Peter has done enough and wants Guy to take over.
But it should have been Guy starting that car. That was how it was told to us. It doesn't mean it wasn't changed. Oh, and a lock up there on the front right for Paddy Shovlin, and he loses place to Jeff Smith, number 55, the Mini, the dark coloured Mini. That's a car that was not this car, but that colour scheme run by drivers like John Rhodes and John Handley in period, the sort of dark Cooper colours with the white roof. Car number 55, now the leading Mini. So where is he overall? 12th place overall is Jeff Smith. And Paddy Shovlin comes back past him again, but look at Bill Shepherd. Bill actually has, one of the Minis has been in the boot of Bill Shepherd's car. He hasn't noticed, but it's popped out now. The vast V8 Ford Galaxy is in this battle with the Cortina and the 2 Minis as they come out of Luffield into Woodcote.
Problem for the Minis is that the Cortinas, and especially the Galaxy, slow them down mid-corner when they are at their biggest advantage over the bigger cars, and then of course they just go thundering away down the straight, and Bill Shepherd doing exactly that. The Mini almost literally below his eye line as he goes past it. You know, if he's got his arm out the window, he'd be grazing the gutter on the Mini. That's the difference between a family car in the UK and a family car in the US.
They go into the Beckett's complex, and Paddy Shovlin just ahead of Bill Shepherd. Bill will be handing over to Fred for the second part of the race, but the cheeky Mini comes back through. It's Jeff Smith who makes his way past the Galaxy through the twiddly bits. As you say, it's on the straights where the Galaxy really comes into its own, and through the corners that the Minis are so much quicker. So Bill Shepherd powers past the first of the Minis, powers past the Paddy Shovlin Cortina, now thinks about, better get the anchors out here because I've got to get this car stopped for Stowe Corner, but he manages it, but Paddy Shovlin slides back through on the inside again. What wonderful racing. Absolutely fabulous. And actually what's really making me laugh is the noises off that the camera mics are picking up, just endless tyre squeal from everything out there. These tyres are being absolutely pushed to their very limits, and again you can see the Galaxy just waving around, wallowing on its big springs, all of that weight. No matter how much you try, you just can't get enough weight out of the Galaxy. And again, the Minis nip by, and again, at the end of any half-decent straight, the Galaxy will be right there. A lot of these Minis will have battle scars on them at the end. And again, you can see Jeff Smith in that black car with the absolute period livery, Cooper Car Company, and the little white stripes down the side, as well as the Cooper stripes on the bonnet, looking absolutely perfect. And yeah, not John Rhodes with tyres boiling with smoke off the front wheels is another classic Mini 1960s racer racing shot. Well, another car in the pit lane with problems. This is one of the Cortinas, not sure which. The Brundle and Pearson car has made a second pit stop. In fact, it's not, it's a Mustang, car 49. So that is the car of Michael Whittaker Jr. We saw he had a problem earlier on, and obviously that has not gone away. So I'm not sure if Brundle and Pearson have now done a second mechanical stop or whether there's been a driver change, but they are a long way away from where they would like to be in the pale metallic blue Mustang. So the race leader, as was a while ago before we went off stage left for lots of entertainment, is James Thorpe. Phil Quaife will be waiting in the pit lane to take over the Mustang, and I would think that these two will stop roughly around sort of 22-23 minute period, as much as laps allow, because that's a pretty evenly driven car. They get about half each. This might be the time for a dark visor on the helmet. The evening sun is pretty bright and pretty low, and comes up to put a lap on the Bateman Cortina.
So he continues now. 8 laps of the race completed. Fastest race lap for the leader, perhaps no surprise. 2 minutes 30.007. 2 minutes 30.020 for Julian Thomas in this huge number 192 Falcon Sprint. So that car is 13 thousandths of a second slower than the Mustang on its fastest lap. There is no balance of performance in this form of racing, but 13 thousandths between the Mustang and the Falcon, that's pretty close, isn't it, by anybody's standards?
And down the straight towards us, we can see that the driver of that 711 Cortina, we were just questioning ourselves whether that was Peter, Father Peter or son Guy. It's a yellow helmet now. So Guy Smith, yellow helmet, or Peter?
That's a very good question. Most of Guy's racing in my eyesight has been in a car where you can't even tell that it's got a driver in. So
Yes.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to pass on that. Anybody at home, WhatsApp me the answer. Well, there is the number 6 Mustang, just going a lap down. That's the Alan Mann and Keiki Kilkoven car.
That's Alan's son, Henry.
Easy mistake
to make.
There you are, easy mistake to make for an idiot like me at the end of 2 very long days. Yes, Henry Mann, beg your pardon. The Alan Mann colours are what always lead you into that little wormhole.
And we are in the pit window now. Just briefly to tell you, the pit window is a 15-minute window, and the cars must be stationary for 60 seconds, but we do have a number of cars that have got additional time penalties for elite drivers.
Oh, big moment, another big lock-up for Steve Soper. He goes off wide. Andy Prio in the yellow and black Mustang up behind him will try and take advantage. Soper comes back on, having not gone round the Beckett's S's, but basically used sort of the old Grand Prix circuit, quite significantly further ahead of Prio, who will be going pressing his radio button that doesn't exist to tell the team and therefore the race director, did you see him? He went off track and gained an advantage. Well, Prio's going to have to do it all again, and not before long will both Soper and Prio be in the pit lane. More dramas. 244, this is Georg Kalgren's Ford Mustang, and by the way, that number 6 car that we just saw with Keiko Kilkoven, I think he's just taken that over from starting driver Henry Mann. Henry is now waiting in the pits then for Steve Soper to come in, so now Soper can pit because the driver who's taking over that bright blue Mustang is in the pit lane, hot, sweaty, but at least he's ready and waiting.
So Henry will take over what has seemed to us to be quite a recalcitrant Mustang from Steve Soper. He seemed to be having more trouble than others in the Mustang. He's actually passed the car that Henry Mann has just handed over. So that's the car that Henry was in. The number 75 car in the pit lane is the Stephen Upstill started it, Richard Bateman to take over, one of our many Lotus Cortinas. And that was running down in. Well,
that was lapped by the leaders on the previous lap, I think. Now here comes Prio again. Soperman is still struggling, and Prio has closed right up on him again. And although Steve Soper has been able to wheel this car around and keep it in the top 4, Henry Mann is going to be doing very well indeed if he can continue to live with what looks like a fairly recalcitrant car. Now, wouldn't be at all surprised. What's the minimum stationary time? 60 seconds?
60, yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't be at all surprised if they're looking at, well, the only thing you can really do quickly is drop tyre pressures, but the way it's moving around, he's either got really high tyre pressure or too little tyre pressure, but I'm sure there'll be pressure adjustments. The flame-spitting yellow and black car of Andy Prio has made its way through into 4th place, and Andy Prio will be soon heading into the pit lane, close perhaps towards the end of the pit window to hand over to his co-driver Alex Taylor. Look at that. Twin exhaust spewing flame, and somebody's gone off on the exit of the Beckett's S's. Who's gone across the grass? That's another of the red and gold Cortinas. Now, is that the car that was in front of them?
I would suggest that's Craig Davis. Yes, it is, number 9, Craig Davis. So he's had a big moment there. He's driving solo. He was in 3rd place. So he's trying to get the car fired up. You can see the flames coming out of the exhaust.
Got fire in the hold, but it doesn't seem to want to run. Now I wonder whether he's actually struggling to get a gear, because if the car selected a neutral, in the Beckett Sessis there, as he snicked it down maybe from 4th to 3rd in the slower part, then that could easily explain the spin. And if he's blipping the throttle and trying to find a gear, that could easily explain why he's no longer moving. Well, here is Andy Priaulx. Are we sure that's Andy Priaulx that started? I mean, it was being driven with great aplomb, but I'm trying to remind myself whether that looks like it does actually. Yes. Coming towards us look like an Andy Priaulx helmet, maybe just a little odd reflection through the side window. And there is Steve Soper, and Soper clinging on tenaciously. Was that smoking a bit, Andy Priaulx?
I thought it was, but I think it may have been him just spinning the inside rear wheel,
locking up
power.
A little bit.
Just and Craig Davis still stuck there.
He's going to need a tow, isn't he? Pit lane window is open. Are we going to be forced to bring out the safety car? No, he's okay, it seems. Now, that sounds, looks to me like they heard the sound of a car firing up again. I don't think marshals normally are shushed away by drivers. They are, however, retreating to a safe distance. There, he's still got flames coming out of the exhaust. I think that car's not got a transmission. I may be wrong.
I think the situation is the marshals are really in no man's land there. It's a long way to the barriers, and I think the concern is that they are stuck out on the grass there. Craig Davis probably indicated to them he's not going to get that car going again, so they retreated, and it'll be dealt with by a tow vehicle rather than by the marshals trying to push start him. Yeah, there was still a stab of flame from the exhaust after the marshals started backing away, so I'm sure he had an engine, but I don't think he had transmission. All problems for one of our minis. This is 341, so that is Tom Bell and Joe Ferguson's car. 65 Mini Cooper S. Had they just made a pit stop? They're on page 2. No, they're 13th overall.
Oh, are they? Okay, yes. They're further up than I was looking.
They were second in the minis, and not unexpected, because Tom Bell and Ferguson are an extremely quick pairing, and that's why he was beating the steering wheel, because they were potential winners of their class.
Well, that's a real shame for them. And the current leader, shown as having just stopped, Joe Polly, in the number 306 Mini Cooper. So
Joe Polly, the partner of Jeff Smith in another Mini, and also a member of the famous Polly family that you might know from hot rod racing.
Yeah, absolutely right. And she's raced contemporary minis, capital letter M-I-N-I,
yes.
Swell in the minis. So many minis. And down the pit lane comes the 66 car, Thorpe and Quaife in from the lead. And Phil Quaife will be ready to take over from James Thorpe. Let's hope. Yes, there he is. No super fast Le Mans style running around, hoiking out of seats and mechanics hauling drivers out. There is Andy Priaulx, the Guernsey colours on his helmet. He's a proud donkey. That's not an insult, that's what Guernseymen call themselves.
And an extra 15 seconds.
Right, so we have a slippery surface flag out down there at the Beckett's S's. Yeah, so was it a spin on oil? Could he then no longer get gears? Or did that Mustang actually lose something? Driver change is done for the yellow Mustang. So Andy Priaulx will return. And we have another problem, Mini number 101, Stephen Woodrow and Alfie Woodrow's Morris Cooper S, the only Morris Cooper also stranded trackside. Number 9 Mustang of Craig Davies being pushed away. And there the driver is out, so I'm not sure which of the pair started the car, Craig or Alfie, but he is...
Stephen started the car.
Right, okay. So, sorry, Stephen or Alfie, so they are out. Alfie Woodrow is out, and what happens here? Too much of the curb on the inside? No. Oh, that's a rare one. Normally with a Mini, if you keep your foot planted, the front drags you around. Not sure that he retained confidence. Well, the novices cross show, I'm not sure whether both or one, or which was is a novice. That indicates that they have not yet completed a dozen races. So still very early in their racing career. I'm afraid there, if that was Alfie Woodrow having taken the car over, it zigged when it should have zagged. The fundamental rule with a Mini is keep your right foot planted. It is more likely to drive you out of trouble than you are to save a spin. And you're seeing there a sort of microcosm of how they service Works Minis. If they had work to do on the Mini on the suspension, they basically put a couple of spare wheels on the ground, tip it onto the wheels around the door frame there, and then work on the underside, and then they could tip it back. Not a job you can do with a Ford Falcon or a Ford Galaxy, I would think. You'd need rather more marshals to do it.
But impressive that they managed to roll that car over. 4 of them, I think it was, or 5, but very gently done as well, just trying to protect the car from more damage, as we see the 66 leading car, which has done its pit stop. So this will be Phil Quaife now. That looks like Alfie, doesn't it, who just taken over the car. That's the 101 Mini driver.
Well, I've put my own racing Mini in the gravel here, not as dramatically as that, and I know just how you burn with embarrassment, so don't feel too bad. We've all been there, we've all done that, maybe not quite as dramatically, but that's just a rub of the green. Now here is Callum Lockheed on the charge. Callum has just got out of a Group C Porsche 962. He will feel this is perhaps not quite as elegantly refined for purpose, but Callum really doesn't matter what he's driving. He drives it with great enthusiasm and great speed, and there is the gap to the leader. Now the gap is coming down. Last lap for both of these cars. Now actually it wasn't an outlap for the Thomas and Lockheed car. They had been out a lap before. 2:34 as the outlap compared to 2:30.0 as the fastest lap of the car. So let's see what Callum Lockheed can do. There is time in hand, just under 13 minutes of the race. There's not going to be much rubber left if he continues to lock up like that, but if he gets in front he may be able to relax a little bit more. Callum Lockheed chasing Phil Quaife. Blimey, this could be a British GT race of about 15 years ago, genuinely. Yes. Maybe 20, but we'll err on the side of caution, make ourselves all feel a little younger than perhaps we are.
That's the lead battle coming towards us, the Mini in between them, of course, but Callum Lockheed he really does favour that tight line into Brooklands, doesn't he?
It's a very, very different line from one that anybody else uses, but essentially it means you're braking in a straight line all the way to the apex of the corner. And actually, if I was still doing any racing, that is something that I think I would adopt. I do like the way that works. It means you're going right to the apex, to the minimum speed part, hard on the brakes, but with the car in a straight line. And with a big thing like this, or frankly anything that Callum drives, which has got slightly ropey brakes and very low grip, that's probably not a bad idea.
So they're coming up to Copse Corner. This is the 3rd placed car, which now has Henry Mann at the wheel, definitely with that white helmet. Yes, definitely Henry. And that was started by Steve Soper. And
don't forget, that car was 4th when it came into the pit. So yes, but I was saying that Henry would have done a good job to hang on to 3rd. We have lost the Mustang that was in front of it, haven't we? Car number 9 of Craig Davis, but still in the top 3.
But the 2 cars ahead of it had longer pit stops to do because of the elite drivers on board. So Steve Soper, surprisingly, given Steve's massive amount of experience, wasn't classed as an elite driver, but Henry Mann in 3rd place at the top of the screen there. But the 2 battling for the lead are Phil Quaife and Callum Lockheed into Stowe Corner. Callum just feathering the throttle there, keeping the car sideways, just controlling with the throttle and the steering as he turns in now into Club Corner. It's great to see his hands working away there on the wheel, round to the left, now round to the right.
This looks like a proper baddies car, doesn't it? I know the Mustang is dark as well, but the Falcon all in black, it just looks like the bad guys chasing down the hero. Meanwhile, here is the car that was started by Andy Priaulx, the bright yellow and black Mustang, the Bumblebee livery, and he's got a battle on his hands, hasn't he? Where are they? This is for 5th place.
And guess who's on board the red and gold Mustang? Our old friend Phil Keane in that car. That was a late change because the car Phil was supposed to be in, the suspension broke yesterday and hasn't been, Friday in qualifying, hasn't been able to race. So it's Phil Keane. We could be talking about a British GT race, couldn't we?
Yeah. Well, Keane and Priaulx, although Andy Priaulx very rarely raced in British GT, Sebastian Priaulx, his son, has, with some great effect. Andy Priaulx, well, it's not Andy Priaulx now, is it? Dialing in the opposite lock.
That's Alex Taylor,
yeah,
isn't it, in the car?
Exactly
which,
right.
Will Phil Keane have a bit of a stab? Oh, a slight adjustment of the mirror there. That may have got knocked in a close moment with another car. Just adjusting the mirror so you can see where Phil Keane is coming into Brooklands.
Should be a bit more like Sammy Davis Jr. in the Cannonball Run and just removing the mirror and throwing it away. Where we're going, we don't need mirrors. If it's behind you, that's where it ought to stay. So Phil Keane in the red and gold 83 Mustang.
Through
63 Mustang,
corner.
I can't read.
163, yeah, it's another one with a bit of gaffer tape just outside the roundel, coming up to the right-hander at Copse Corner. Two very similar cars, the Mustang with the 4.7 litre V8 Ford engine as they go out of Copse Corner, up the hill towards Maggots. Phil Keane trying to think of a way to pass Alex Taylor as they go now into Beckett's. Through there, and you can see just quickly running through the bottom of the shot there is the car ahead of them, which is Henry Mann, and let's have a look. Henry Mann's last lap time, a 2:38. These two cars behind doing 2:36 and 2:35, so Henry Mann really needs to keep on the throttle there, because with 8 minutes to run, he's got two cars faster coming up behind him.
Now, is that 63 or is that 163? This timing screen shows that that is 163, so that's not the car that Phil Keane is in. Phil Keane is in car number 63 with Sean McInerney, who started it, and Phil Keane in 6th position has just set a 2-minute 32.1 lap, just a few hundredths of a second off the fastest race lap. So Phil Keane coming from behind, but he is 11 seconds back. That's going to be a long chase with 7 minutes. And so that battle is Taylor versus Davison for 4th place, and that is, well, a third of a second. That's not a third of a second, that's about a third of a Mustang difference between them. That is a very tight battle, and the leader, well, he's now opened up a slight advantage over Callum Lockheed. The gap came down by 4/10 on the last lap, and a big handful of opposite there from Alex Taylor in the yellow and black car. They are starting to run out of tyres at the rear on these Mustangs, aren't they? And I'm sure the Falcon of Callum Lockheed is exactly the same.
John Davison, we've seen him out in a couple of cars, an Elite and also the Griffith as well, and now he's out in the big V8, same engine, but in the Mustang. And Phil Keane, apologies for misidentifying that, the number not so easy to read on that 163, but Phil Keane is there in the battle, but just a little bit further back.
Yeah, don't think he's going to catch these guys before the end of the race, unfortunately.
Could well do. He's just a bit too far back, perhaps.
I'm loving the Mini between them, by the way. Not part of the battle and not even remotely sort of well up the order, but if you look at the front of the car as it comes towards you, it's got a little old-fashioned style number plate stuck on, 2OLD. Too old. I'm liking that. Back with our leaders then. So here is the car that started on pole position, the Mustang, Phil Quaife leading in 66, the black car with the white stripes, and chasing him, the black car with the white V, that is Callum Lockheed in the car, the Ford Falcon Sprint that was started by Julian Thomas, its owner, and there is very little between them. The gap was 2.3 seconds. That is not 2.3 seconds by anybody's eye or stopwatch. That is more like 1.3 seconds. And on the last lap, Callum Lockheed taking 4 tenths out of Phil Quaife, but I think it is much more than that this lap. This is going to be a Silverstone type finish right at the end of our final race. Yet another final lap sort out could be in order. They're coming up behind the only Alpha in the field, and they go by him without too many dramas. That's Alan Tom in the GTA Julius Sprint. And here is our leading Lotus Cortina, I think. Car number 1, fittingly enough, Neil Brown and Richard Dutton. They raced against each other in a couple of categories over the weekend. They have raced with each other in this Lotus Cortina. And as you pointed out yesterday, they say that their average, or the total age of the drivers, is now approaching 150.
It is indeed, yes, and it's Richard Dutton at the wheel. Neil Brown started, it's his car, so Richard Dutton now just getting the sideways on. And there's the Mercury Comet Cyclone, which you mentioned earlier on, one of the longest names, if not the longest name in the... Oh no, we've got Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTA, that's a bit longer, isn't it? Yes. This car is physically longer, that's for sure, than an Alfa. And here's the lead battle now, and Callum Lockheed coming up alongside through Luffield, but not able to get through there, and the Phil Quaife holding on to the lead for the moment. Yeah,
I wonder if Phil Quaife just got held up coming down into Brooklands by the Alpha in front. Callum Lockheed's always very aggressive into Brooklands. He's made a number of very impressive passes there. Didn't quite get through on the inside at Luffield. The Mustang had just enough to get the door shut. And so this is the battle for the lead. We have 3 minutes 50 seconds to go, and there is about half a second between the Mustang and the Falcon. It will be a Ford V8 that wins, because even if these two fall off, the Soper and Mann Mustang is in 3rd, the metallic light blue car. There's a Mustang in 4th, the Prio and Taylor car, and in 5th position there is another Mustang, the John Davidson car. So it will be a Mustang, but will it be Callum Lockheed in the Falcon? It will be a Ford V8. Will it be the Mustang or the Falcon? That's going to be decided in this lap. Perhaps Callum Lockheed sends it deep down the inside. He is always very good under braking, and he makes it through. Does he keep it in front on the exit of Stowe? He does. A change of lead, and that's the first change of lead other than during the pit stops in the race.
And just to inject a little more excitement into this, if it's needed, it was 11 seconds. Phil Keane was behind the battle between Taylor and Davison. Phil Keane is now 3 seconds behind. So we said it was a hard work for Phil to catch them, but he is catching them.
He is reeling them in hand over fist, and with 2.5 minutes left to go, there will be this lap plus one more. So this is 3rd, 4th and 5th. Hey, my favourite job, blue car, red car. In this case, yellow car, blue car, red car. The yellow car is in 3rd place, the blue car is in 4th place, the red and gold car is in 5th place. You want close? This is close. Phil Keane is at the back, pushing this. I know that's Davison.
Phil Keane's coming up behind them with the headlights on. So it's going to be 4 Mustangs battling, and
Henry Mann struggling to hold on in that pale blue car. The yellow Mustang gone by, the red and gold Mustang's gone by, and right behind him is Phil Keane in that dark Mustang. So Henry Mann struggling now as he gets put under pressure. Through goes Alex Taylor in the yellow and black car. Through two goes John Davidson, 163, the red and gold car, and he's having to defend now against Henry Mann. But as Mann drifts out a little wide, a chance for Phil Keane in the grey car to come through. Does he do so? Trying to squeeze through in the 63 car. He does get through, and he's right on the inside of the other 63 with the extra one added too. So Phil Keane gets 2 in 2 corners, and Phil Keane's charge now sees him up in 4th place. He's got this lap and one more to get in contact with that yellow and black car in front, and that would be for a spot on the podium.
Tremendous drive from Phil Keane, and all credit to all of these drivers, because we're seeing really good close battles, door handle to door handle, literally. Some of the wing mirrors on the cars have been pushed flat because they've been so close together as they come through Beckett's, and the leading yellow Mustang of Alex Taylor, started by Andy Prio. There's Phil Keane on the inside of Beckett's, trying to pass the 126 Colin Sauter car, which isn't involved in this battle. It's being lapped. So Phil Keane's target is the yellow Mustang, but Callum Lockheed's target is the checkered flag, because there are 16 seconds to go. They're going to get another lap, as you suggested, Martin, so we're on to the last lap now. Callum Lockheed leads in Julian Thomas's Falcon, but back with this other battle, there's Alex Taylor in the yellow and black Mustang being chased by British GT Lamborghini, Works Lamborghini driver Phil Keane comes through behind him, and he's coming out onto the Hamilton Straight, so they've got a full lap to go to the checkered flag for Phil Keane to catch and pass the yellow Mustang if he can.
I would say my money might be on Phil Keane, but that would be the curse of the commentator, and I really wouldn't want to be responsible for that. Callum Lockheed opening up a 2.5 lead over Phil Quaife, but again, lots of tyre smoke coming off the yellow and black Bumblebee Mustang. Hoiks it round the corner. Alex Taylor doing his very best to hold off Phil Keane. If he does so, it will be a mighty defence. Phil Keane is very quick in anything, stroke everything. Seen him win many races. He slots up the inside. You know, that is the pro racer's knowledge. That is the aggression. I'm going halfway over the curbs. I'm coming through. And right behind is the 163 car as well. So that is Phil Davison, the red and gold, going around the outside of the yellow and black car. So Phil Keane up to third, side by side for fourth place. Big oversteering moment for Alex Taylor in the yellow and black car, but he hangs on just ahead of the red and gold of John Davison. Phil Keane is gone. Now it's all about fourth place. We'll catch up with our class leaders in the Lotus Cortinas and the Minis later. Too much going on. Another last lap sort out for a podium spot, and this time it's Phil Keane that makes third place his own, and he is clearing off so they don't get a chance to come back at him. Alex Taylor hanging on in fourth place. Fifth place is John Davidson, and in sixth place in the metallic pale blue car is Henry Mann. But the leader coming down the Hangar Straight for the final time. They're threading their way through the Minis and the Cortinas, but in a car started by its owner Julian Thomas, who kept it right in the frame. Callum Lockheed brings a flamboyant end to the race, to the meeting, to the classic here at Silverstone in the Ford Falcon. He is going to take victory, leading a huge V8 engined armada of cars to the line. But it is victory for the Falcon. It beats the Mustang hordes. Callum Lockheed takes the checker. Just behind him in second place is the car that started on pole position with James Thorpe, Phil Quaife in second spot. And here comes the third place battle. It's going to be a while before we see them cross the line, as they were about a third of a lap back. It is Phil Keane. What a great livery that car is. So unusual to see it in that very modern looking grey and white. He takes third. Fourth place for the Prio and Taylor car, and in fifth place the car of John Davison that started on the outside of the front row of the grid. Well, Julian Thomas and Callum Lockheed have combined in a lot of cars this weekend. Julian really does have a very enviable fleet of classic racing machinery, and they have produced some spectacular efforts, and they finished the weekend with a win. And again, another barn-storming race, Alistair Douglas. That was an absolute cracker.
It really was, and I do love saloon car racing, particularly the Pre-66, where we've got these tremendous battles with cars, even in the smaller classes, that have more power than grip. So it's all about sliding the cars around, and it's really exciting. And great applause coming from the big crowd here for our winner, Callum Lockheed. And of course we mustn't forget that Callum's only there because Julian Thomas, the car's owner, did such a good job in the first stint. And Julian is really come on over the last 6 or 7 years, as he's a complete amateur, but really, really quick now. And his lap time's very, very close, if not occasionally a little bit quicker than Callum. I've seen that happen. Yep. And you may remember Callum and Julian sharing that this was the same car. It used to be yellow with a black and yellow checker roof. We used to call it the taxi, the New York taxi. But talking to Julian earlier this year, he said, yeah, we had to respray it, do a bit of body work, so we thought we'd go to my traditional colours, which is the dark blue with the white arrow on the front.
Well, Callum Lockheed waving to the crowd, but also you'll note signalling his thanks to the marshals. Big supporter of British marshalling, Callum Lockheed, and like everybody else, big thanks to the marshals for all of their efforts here this weekend. And it is still a huge crowd as well. I mean, what beautiful weather we have had. Certainly not encouraging anybody to rush off home. That may be our final race, but Dodgy will be starting up on the main stage, or may even have started up on the main stage, or their start I think maybe 7:30, and Rick Astley will bring the classic here at Silverstone to a musical conclusion later on as the evening draws on. But for Julian Thomas and Callum Lockheed, another strong race, and as you said, Callum only here in this winning position because of a great start by Julian Thomas, but only here racing any of these cars at all because Julian brings them, because he loves racing these old cars so much. Well, thank you so much to everybody who has brought cars to race, to display, to show off in what has been a fantastic weekend of classic motorsporting action with some astonishing racing, some great displays, lots and lots for the crowds to see. And thank you to everybody who's come, young and old, whether you are here for the very first time. Hello, Teddy Haven, age 3, one of our younger fans in the audience. I know he's had a cracking day. And to everybody who has been responsible for the coverage as well. We've thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Myself, Martin Haven, Alistair Douglas in the commentary booth, Bryn Lucas and Ed Foster down in the collecting areas and on the podium. Nicky Shields and Ant Hanstead have been running around among the crowds and the great and the good, doing sterling work as well. And thank you so much to the TV crew. Well, there is your winner. Let's take a look at our results. Confirmation of victory for Julian Thomas and Callum Lockheed. The Adrian Flux Trophy for Transatlantic Pre-66 touring cars allows in the American muscle car hordes. Julian Thomas and Callum Lockheed coming out on top of an enormous contingent of Ford V8 powered cars. They win in the Falcon with a sea of Mustangs behind them. More Ford Blue Ovals in the top 10. The Dueling Lucas Lotus Cortina coming ahead of Neil Brown and Richard Dutton in their car, and Roger Wills. And then the top Cortina, beg your pardon, among the minis, among the Cortinas, the top mini, got to get my teeth changed. Jeff Smith, touring car ace, comes out on top of the pile ahead of namesake Aaron, and a whole host of other minis and Cortinas mingling with the big Fords further back. The BMW of Henry Barton finishing just outside the top 20, and the Sol Alfa Romeo battling it for position. Alan Tom finishing just outside the top 30. So a bumper field of classic racing saloons bring it all to a conclusion. What a way to finish any race meeting, with big banger American V8s versus Lotus Cortinas and Minis, and the Adrian Flux Trophy for the Transatlantic Pre-66 cars really did not disappoint in any way, shape or form. Lots of close racing, big names and big cars with big action aplenty. And the tiddlers were at it too, the Minis threatening everybody for supremacy as they use their nimble handling and lightweight to make fools of the Ford engines in the Galaxies, the Mustangs and the Cortinas. It was a fantastic race, and victory was decided in the last couple of minutes as Callum Lockheed and Julian Thomas took their Falcon to victory. Not everybody made it all the way through. Despite the action, there was a fine finish. Victory for the Falcon ahead of the Mustangs. And that is it for racing at the Classic at Silverstone for 2022. Beautiful weather, beautiful machinery, some absolutely astonishing racing. Wherever you've been, trackside, at the circuit, or watching online across the globe, thank you for joining us. It's been our pleasure to cover the action for you, for the entire TV crew here. On behalf of Ed Foster, Bryn Lucas, Nikki Shields, Ant Anstead and Alistair Douglas, Martin Haven saying thank you for being with us. We can't wait to see you next time out. And this has given you a taste of what historic racing really can be all about. Old cars being driven as the makers intended, right on the limit by some of the best in the business. Silverstone, you have done it again. From the Classic 2022, it's goodbye from us.